Hello, this is Ken Ferry with this week's Boots in the Field. This week's Boots in the Field has to do with the question that I run into periodically throughout the winter as well as basically the last 30 days, and some of it driving around the new forecasting tool that NOAA has released. They have a new experimental drought monitoring and early warning guidance tool, and they call it EDDI. So it's an experimental tool that they put out, and farmers have been coming across this and looking at the March EDDI tool, I guess you would say, as far as the report. And the 3-month outlook based on this new tool doesn't look good for most of the Corn Belt. It's got us forecasted pretty strong in a drought forecast as far as what we're going to have to deal with for the next 3 months. So that triggers questions as growers call in and thinking about it is, if this is true, what should we change? How should we prepare for the oncoming drought of 2018? Well, first of all, remember, as Thomas has told us many times, you get beyond 3 days in forecasting, you're guessing anyway, and no matter how good you are. So that's something that we keep in mind. And how good is this new forecast? Well, only time will tell. We'll have to watch it and see if it's something that's going to be useful for us. With that said, though, we never farm for drought. With droughts occurring, for instance, in 1988 and 2012, the two substantial droughts that we often talk about, if you were farming for a drought every year that it was forecasted, which in this case would have only been right 2 years out of 30. That's just something we don't do. What we do is weatherproof our operations for whatever Mother Nature throws our way. Water management, for instance, as we weatherproof a farm, it's not only done through drainage, subsurface and surface drainage, but we get our fields in a vertical format. So our roots and water can move through that soil and either work its way back to the surface for surface roots or make its way down to the tile line, and the root system can get deep fast in that soil. That's what we're talking about when we try to get you in a vertical environment, is make sure the root systems can move as deep as they need to get to water. If you remember from the meetings this winter that managing density layers here in the dry area in 2017 amounted anywhere from 10 to 20 bushel yield increase in corn. Kind of keep yourself from stressing that corn out. Weatherproofing is getting your farms in the best possible shape they can. And one of the things that we look at from a soil perspective is your soil fertility. So keeping farms in good perspective or good health from a soil fertility standpoint. Acid farms don't like drought. Potassium deficient farms don't like drought. Nitrogen deficient farms don't like drought. So you're going to look at each farm and get it in the best fertility shape that you can get it in, as well as you're going to look at other components of the soil health, the physical and biological properties. So it's a situation where we're eliminating compaction and all those other things that we continue to work on. So you're going to get your soil in the best physical, chemical, and biological health shape that you can get it in to help you weatherproof that farm through any of the dry or wet conditions that are coming your way. Weatherproofing your soil then is followed up by mitigating risk with things such as variable rate population, nitrogen, and hybrid selection. As we've talked about in the past on other podcasts, picking hybrids to mitigate risk in the field and then matching up populations based on that hybrid characteristic is one of the great ways to manage or reduce risk or farm for the conditions that are out there. And following that up with variable rate nitrogen, of course, helping lower nitrogen supplying areas with higher rates of N is one of the ways that we protect ourselves from a drought, because those lower producing soils are going to produce even less nitrogen in a dry year. It's all about weatherproofing it. The farm operations that are implementing variable rate population and variable rate nitrogen rates right now and picking hybrids to mitigate risk, we don't change plans based on any forecast, whether it's wet or dry. You stick with the plan and adjust it only when it needs audibles called at the line, meaning that things would show up, such as spider mites or an outbreak of a disease or something due to weather conditions. Then you would go in and make a change at that time. but your plan is already in play. You don't worry about the forecast of a drought. You don't worry about the forecast of El Nino and all those other things that take place in the forecasting models. Managing risk based on a forecast will have you chasing your tail forever. You'll never know if you're in the right situation or not. So build a plan to mitigate risk and work the plan. Stay with the course. Make small adjustments as you need it as we go along. So hope that helps. Keep her safe. Keep her moving.